Have you ever looked around your living room at the end of a long day, seen the pile of mail on the counter, the shoes kicked off by the door, the dust settling on the mantle, and felt not just tired, but actually defeated? It's a specific kind of exhaustion, isn't it? It isn't just physical. It's the heavy, silent weight of a home that feels like it's demanding something from you, rather than giving something back to you. For decades, I believed a lie. I believed that cleaning was just a chore. It was a tax I had to pay for living. It was something to rush through, to automate, to dread. I treated my home like a to-do list. And because of that, my home treated me like an employee. But what if I told you that we have been looking at it all along? What if the act of sweeping the floor wasn't about removing dirt, but about removing the stress from your mind? What if scrubbing a sink wasn't a burden, but a bridge back to yourself? 30 days ago, I was exactly where many of you might be right now. I felt like I was constantly managing my life, but never actually living it. I'm over 45. I have a career. I have responsibilities. And honestly, I didn't have the energy to spend 4 hours every Saturday scrubbing the baseboards. I was drowning in the American style of cleaning, which is essentially waiting for things to get messy, and then launching a chemical field attack to fix it. It was a cycle of chaos and crisis. I knew something had to change, not just the state of my house, but the state of my head. So I did something radical. I stopped cleaning like an American, and I spent 30 days living strictly by 10 ancient Japanese habits of home care. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking of minimalism or white walls, or maybe Marie Kondo. But this is deeper than folding socks. I'm talking about concepts like Seiketsu, where cleanliness is treated as a form of dignity. I'm talking about Kiyomeru, the idea that you can purify the energy of a room with your own hands. I went into this experiment looking for a cleaner house, but what I found was a sanctuary. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to walk you through the 10 specific habits that didn't just organize my drawers, but actually quieted the noise in my head. We're going to talk about the Genkan and why the way you enter your home determines the mood for your entire evening. We're going to discuss the 5-minute gold rule that completely eliminated my need for weekend cleaning marathons. And we will explore the holy trinity of the Japanese bathroom ritual that changed my health. This isn't about becoming a maid in your own life. It is about becoming a master of your environment. If you have felt that low-level hum of anxiety when you walk through your front door, this video is for you. I'm going to show you how I save money, reclaim my time, and most importantly, how I turn the mundane act of cleaning into a daily love letter to myself. And this is how 30 days of Japanese habits changed my home and my soul. Let's begin. The first habit isn't actually a physical action. It's a shift in perspective. It starts with a single Japanese word, Seiketsu. Now, if you look this up in a dictionary, it translates simply to cleanliness. But in the context of a Japanese home, it means something far more profound. It means purity. And there's a massive difference between a room that is sanitary and a room that is pure. Growing up in the West, and certainly in my own adult life, I operated on what I call the task-based model. Cleaning was the enemy. It was an obstacle between me and my relaxation. I would scrub the counters aggressively, my mind racing with to-do lists, resentful of every crumb I found. My goal was just to get over with. The Japanese approach is the complete opposite. It is mindfulness-based. Let me give you a real example that changed everything for me. I used to hate mopping the floors. It felt like backbreaking, ungrateful work. But during this 30-day experiment, I applied Seiketsu. Instead of rushing to finish, I slowed down. I treated the mop not as a tool of labor, but as a paintbrush. I imagined that with every stroke, I wasn't just wiping away dust. I was wiping away the stress of the day, I was physically removing the chaotic energy from my home and resetting the foundation for my family. Suddenly, mopping wasn't a chore. It became a moving meditation. It became 5 minutes of silence where I could just be.
Welcome.
Here's a hard truth we often miss as women who carry the mental load of a household. We mistake cleaning for servitude, when it is actually an act of self-respect. When you practice Seiketsu, you stop cleaning for the imaginary guests who might stop by. You start cleaning for you. You are saying, I am worthy of living in a space that brings me peace. I am worthy of a home that rises up to greet me, not one that drags me down. And that feeling of greeting, of how a home welcomes you the moment you step inside, is actually the most critical part of this entire philosophy. It brings us to our second habit. And honestly, this one is the single biggest reason why American homes feel so chaotic compared to Japanese ones. It all begins at the threshold with something called the Genkan. If Seiketsu is the mindset, then the Genkan is the physical practice that makes it possible. In Japan, the entryway is not just a hallway. It is a distinct border, a sunken area called the Genkan. It is a precise line where the outside world ends and the inside world begins. In America, we tend to burst through our front doors. We carry the mud on our boots, the stress of the traffic, and the exhaustion of the office right into the center of our living rooms. We drag the chaos of the world straight onto our white carpets. But the Genkan forces a pause. It is a physical stop sign. The most important rule here is the removal of shoes. And I want to be clear, this isn't just about hygiene, though keeping the germs of city streets off your floors is a huge bonus. This is about psychology. For us women, especially those of us navigating our 40s and 50s, we wear so many hats. We are managers, mothers, daughters, caretakers. When you stand in your Genkan and physically unlace your shoes, you are telling your brain, the work is done. The outside world has no power here. It is a ritual of shedding your armor. Now, I live in standard American homes. I don't have a traditional sunken entryway, so I had to create one. Here is exactly what I did. I bought a distinct high-quality runner rug that serves as my boundary line. I placed a small, beautiful bench right next to the door, and I committed to a strict rule. No outside shoes touch the wood floor beyond that rug. At first, it felt annoying, but by day 3, I realized something magical. When I sat on that bench to take off my heels, I felt my shoulders drop 2 inches. I left the busy professional on the rug, and the woman who walked into the kitchen was just me. I was softer. I was present. The lesson here is about boundaries. If you treat your front door like a revolving door, your home will feel like a train station. But if you treat it like a sanctuary, it becomes a place of healing. So we have stopped the dirt and stress from coming in. But what about the mess that life naturally creates inside? This is where most of us fail. We let it pile up until Saturday, and then we spend our entire weekend cleaning. But the Japanese have a different way. It's a technique that takes almost no effort, yet keeps the house perpetually pristine. It's called the 5-minute gold rule, and it is the secret to reclaiming your weekends. Let's talk about the Saturday trap. You know this trap. You let the house slide on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because you're tired. You tell yourself, I'll get to it on the weekend. By the time Saturday morning arrives, you aren't waking up to a weekend of rest. You are waking up to a 4-hour debt of cleaning that you now have to pay off. You spend your precious time off scrubbing, sweating, and resenting your family for making the mess. That was my life. Until I discovered the golden 5-minute rule. In Japan, cleaning is rarely a special event. It is breathing. It is constant, small, and rhythmic. The golden rule is simple. Give the house 5 focus minutes in the morning and 5 focus minutes at night. That's it. But here's the catch. It has to be the right 5 minutes. Here is my exact routine that replaced my Saturday marathon. In the morning, before my coffee is even finished brewing, I do 3 things. I make the bed instantly. I open the curtain to let the light in Seiketsu, and I wipe down the 1 bathroom sink I use. Boom. Done. The day starts with a win. In the evening, right before I turn off the lights, I do the closing shift. I call it reset to 0. I make sure the sink is empty. I put the throw pillows back on the couch. And I reset the Genkan shoes away. Now look at the math. 5 minutes in the morning plus 5 minutes at night equals 70 minutes a week. My old Saturday marathon took 4 hours. I literally bought back 3 hours of my life every single week. But for us, women who are navigating the middle of life, this isn't just about time management. It is about energy management. At our age, we need our weekends for restoration, not labor. When you let the mess pile up, it becomes a monster. When you address it in 5-minute increments, it remains a mouse. You remain in control. The lesson here is simple. Don't borrow time from your weekend to pay for your laziness today. Treating your home with these small micro-doses of care is the ultimate kindness to your future self. It means that when Saturday comes, you can actually sit down, read a book, and enjoy the home you built. Now, this handles the maintenance. But there are still times when we need to do the deeper work. The scrubbing, the sweeping. And this brings us to the most spiritual part of the Japanese method. What do you do when you actually have to pick up the broom? Do you rush? Or do you perform a ritual? Let's talk about Kiyomeru and how to turn a chore into a prayer. We have talked about the what and the when. Now we must talk about the how. This brings us to the 4th habit. Kiyomeru, in English, we have the word clean. It's a functional word. It means the absence of dirt. But Kiyomeru, that is different. It translates closer to purification. Think about the difference. You sanitize a hospital room, but you purify a temple. The question I had to ask myself, and the question I am asking you now, is why do we treat our homes like hospital waiting rooms instead of temples for our families? Here's the mistake I was making for like 20 years. I was a rage cleaner. I would be scrubbing the dishes, but in my head, I was replaying an argument I had at work. I was folding laundry, but my mind was worrying about my retirement savings. My hands were here, but my spirit was miles away. Kiyomeru demands that your mind and your hands be in the same place. So, here's what I did. I turned the simple act of washing dishes into a ritual. Instead of rushing to finish, I focused on the sensation, the warmth of the water on my hands, the smell of the lemon soap, the sound of the sponge against the ceramic. I stopped listening to podcasts while I cleaned. I stopped talking on the phone. I just washed. And something incredible happened. My heart rate went down. The anxiety knot in my chest loosened. By the time the sink was empty, I was calm. The lesson for us, especially as women who are constantly juggling, is this: stop trying to be efficient and start trying to be present. When you rush through cleaning, you are teaching your brain that your home is an obstacle to get past. When you practice Kiyomeru, you are teaching your brain that your home is a destination. And once you start touching your home with this level of care, once you start truly feeling the plates, the clothes, the furniture, you start to develop a different relationship with the objects themselves. You stop seeing them as disposable stuff. You start to see their soul. And that leads us to philosophy that didn't just declutter my house, but completely changed the way I spend money. Let's talk about the beautiful concept of Mottainai as I move through my home. Treating every object with respect to Kiyomeru, I stumbled upon a word that completely shifted my view on consumption. That word is Mottainai. It is often translated simply as wasteful, but that doesn't capture the heart of it. Mottainai is an exclamation. It is a feeling of regret when the true value of an object is not utilized. It says, this object is a life, and I am cutting it short. We live in an Amazon Prime culture. If it breaks, buy a new one. If it's old, toss it. We are addicted to the new. But Mottainai taught me that there is dignity in the old. So, how did this play out in my American kitchen? First, I stopped buying single-use plastics. I looked at the glass jars for my spaghetti sauce, not as trash, but as storage. I soaked off the labels, and suddenly, I had a pantry that looked like a high-end organizational magazine for $0. Then, I discovered furoshiki, the art of wrapping with fabric. Instead of buying rolls of wrapping paper that just get torn up and thrown in a landfill on Christmas morning, I started using beautiful scarves and leftover fabrics to wrap gifts. It wasn't just about saving the planet, though that matters. It was about saving my wallet. In 6 months, by simply asking, is this Mottainai, before I threw something away or bought something new, I saved hundreds of dollars on paper towels, Ziploc bags, and disposable cleaners. But the biggest lesson wasn't the money. It was what this taught my grandchildren. When they saw me mending a shirt instead of discarding it or turning old towels into cleaning rags, they learned something powerful. They learned that value isn't found in the price tag. Value is found in the utility. We are the keepers of wisdom for the next generation. If we show them that everything is disposable,
like this,
they will treat the world that way. If we show them Mottainai, they will treat the world with care.
Very good job.
Now, we have purified our daily habits, and we have stopped the waste. But there comes a time in every year, and perhaps a time in every woman's life, where a daily routine isn't enough. Sometimes you need a complete reset. You need to clear the slate entirely so you can begin again. In Japan, this is a massive cultural event. It's not just spring cleaning. It is a spiritual exorcism of the old year. Let's talk about the great cleaning. Let's talk about Oosouji. We have built our daily habits. We have learned to respect our objects. But sometimes, life gets heavy. The dust settles not just on our shelves, but on our spirits. In the West, we have spring cleaning. It's a chore we do because the sun finally came out and showed us how dirty our windows are. But in Japan, there is Oosouji. This translates to the great cleaning. Traditionally, it is done at the end of December to sweep away the bad luck of the past year and welcome the Tashigami, the New Year gods. It isn't just about hygiene. It is a spiritual detox. It is saying, I am closing this chapter so I can write a new one. Now, I will be honest with you. The first time I tried a traditional Oosouji, trying to scrub the entire house top to bottom in 3 days, I was exhausted. My back ached. I was cranky. I realized that at this stage of my life, I cannot sprint like I did in my 20s. So I adapted it. I created the Mini-Oosouji. Instead of waiting for the end of the year, I treat the last Saturday of every month as my great cleaning. I pick just one major area. Maybe it's the windows. Maybe it's pulling the refrigerator out from the wall. Maybe it's deep cleaning the upholstery. I put on music that moves my soul. I open all the windows, no matter the weather, to let the stagnant air out. And I attack that one area with gratitude. By doing this 12 times a year, my house never feels heavy. I never have that looming mountain of spring cleaning hanging over my head. I am constantly resetting. The lesson here is profound for us as we navigate our 50s and beyond. You cannot welcome the new if you are suffocated by the old, whether it's old papers, old clothes, or old dust. Clearing it out is a physical affirmation that you're still growing, still evolving, and still ready for whatever blessings are coming next. And speaking of clearing out the old, there is one room in the house that requires the most vigilant purification. It is the most humble room, yet in Japan, it is treated with the reverence of a shrine. If you can change the way you treat this one room, you will change the health of your entire home. Let's step into the bathroom. Ladies, let's be honest. In America, the bathroom is often the room we are most ashamed of. We close the door when guests arrive. We view it as a place of waste. But in Japan, the bathroom is the ofuro. It is considered the most sacred room in the house. Why? Because it is where you wash away the physical and spiritual dirt of the world. It is where you are naked, vulnerable, and restored. If the kitchen is the heart of home, the bathroom is its immune system. A dirty bathroom is a sign of a stagnant life. A pristine bathroom is a sign of vitality. Now, how do we keep it shrine-like without becoming a full-time janitor? The American way is to let the soap scum build up for 2 weeks, and then attack it with bleach until our eyes water. It's toxic and it's exhausting. The Japanese way is preventative. It is the 10-minute ritual. Here is my new rule. I never leave the bathroom wet. It sounds simple, but it is revolutionary. After every shower, I take 30 seconds to squeegee the glass. I take a dry cloth and wipe the faucet. I treat the bathtub like a giant teacup. I rinse it and dry it immediately after use. By doing this, mold never has a chance to grow. I stop scrubbing. I stop buying harsh chemicals. My bathroom always smells like nothing but water and air. Think about the psychology of this. When you are a woman in your 40s or 50s, a hot bath might be the only time of the day you are truly alone. If you lower yourself into a tub that feels gritty, or look up at a shower curtain that has mildew, you are not relaxing. You are subconsciously stressing about your to-do list. But when you step into a space that sparkles, that is when true healing begins. You aren't just washing your body, you are respecting it. The lesson is this: you cannot claim to love your body if you neglect the space where you care for it. Treating your bathroom with dignity is a direct reflection of your self-worth. Now that we have cleansed our bodies, we must address how we adorn them. We are moving to the closet. And I'm not just talking about organizing shirts. I'm talking about confronting the ghosts of who we used to be, so we can dress the woman we are today. Let's talk about the art of the wardrobe and the KonMari method. We have arrived at the most emotional room in the house, the closet. For most of us over 45, our closet is not just a place for clothes. It is a museum. It is filled with the ghosts of who we used to be. The power suits from a corporate job we left 5 years ago. The jeans from 1999 that we pray will fit again one day. The dress we bought for a fantasy version of our lives that never happened. Every time you open those doors, those clothes whisper to you. They say, you aren't thin enough, or you aren't successful enough anymore. This brings us to the KonMari method, but with a crucial twist for our age. Marie Kondo teaches us to ask, does it spark joy? But I want you to ask a deeper question. Does this honor the woman I am today? Here's what I did. I took everything out. And I mean everything. I held that gray blazer. The one I wore to all those board meetings. It didn't spark joy. It sparked memories of stress. So I thanked it. I literally said, thank you for making me feel strong when I needed it. And then I put it in the donation pile. I stopped treating my closet like a storage unit and started treating it like a high-end boutique curated specifically for me. I organized by weight, by season, and yes, by the body I have right now, not the body I had at 25. The result was freedom. Now, when I wake up, I don't have to fight my wardrobe. Every single item fits. Every single item makes me feel beautiful. Getting dressed isn't a battle. It's a celebration. I look in the mirror and I see myself, not a failed version of my past. The lesson is this: you cannot fully embrace your future if you are still dressing for your past. Your clothes should be your allies, not your critics. And once you clear out the physical clutter, the clothes, the papers, the old furniture, you are left with something very special. Something that terrified me at first, but has now become my greatest comfort. We need to talk about empty space, or as the Japanese call it, ma. In the West, we have a fear of empty space. If there is a blank wall, we hang a picture. If there's an empty corner, we buy a chair. If there's a moment of silence in conversation, we rush to fill it with noise. We equate empty with lacking. But the Japanese have a word for this that completely changes the definition. Ma-jan. Ma is the pause between notes that makes the music beautiful. It is the white space on a page that makes the words readable. In a home, ma isn't emptiness. It is potential. It is the room to breathe. I know this is a hard one for many of us. I see you. Maybe your children have recently left for college or moved out to start their own lives. You look at those empty bedrooms and that quiet living room, and you feel a pang of loneliness. You might feel the urge to fill that space with stuff just to make it feel full again. But I want you to try something brave. I want you to stop seeing that space as a void and start seeing it as a canvas. Here is what I did in my living room. I had a coffee table covered in magazines, candles, and knickknacks. It was decorated. I took everything off. Everything. I left just one beautiful ceramic bowl. At first, it felt naked. But then, I sat down with my morning tea. I wasn't jumping from object to object. My gaze could rest. And because my eye could rest, my mind could rest. This is the secret. Clutter is visual noise. When you have too much stuff, your brain is constantly processing it. It is exhausting. By creating ma, by intentionally leaving space empty, you are giving your nervous system a break. You aren't losing furniture. You are gaining peace. You are creating a home that isn't shouting at you, but listening to you. So here we are. We have traveled through the entryway, the kitchen, the bathroom, and the closet. We have scrubbed, we have purged, and we have paused. 30 days ago, I started this as a cleaning experiment. But standing here today, looking at my home and looking at myself in the mirror, I realized it was never really about the dust. Let's bring it all together. Let's look at the final results of this 30-day journey and our conclusion. 30 days. That is all it was. Just 4 weeks ago, I sat here feeling overwhelmed by my own life. I felt like a servant to my possessions. But today, I am sitting in a home that feels lighter. And because my home is lighter, I am lighter. We often think that to change our lives, we need to move to a new city or change careers or win the lottery. But this experiment taught me that true change happens in the quiet moments. It happens in the way you wipe the table. It happens in the way you take off your shoes. Let's look at the facts, because I know we need to justify the effort. In the last 30 days, I saved approximately 12 hours of cleaning time. By using the 5-minute rule and the clean-as-you-go method in the bathroom, I completely reclaimed my weekends. I actually read a book last Saturday. A whole book. I saved over $200. By practicing Mottainai and shopping my own closet, I stopped impulse buying. I stopped buying duplicates of things I already owned but couldn't find. But the most important statistic is this. My stress levels dropped. That low-level hum of anxiety, the one that says, there's something you should be doing right now, is gone. What is the real lesson here? It isn't about being Japanese. It isn't about minimalism. The lesson is that chaos is a choice, and so is peace. For women our age, the world tries to make us feel invisible. It tries to tell us that our best years are behind us. But when you curate your environment, when you create a space of dignity, order, and beauty, you are making a statement. You are saying, I matter My peace matters. And I am in control of my world. Now, I don't want to think I'm perfect. Will there be days when I leave dishes in the sink? Yes. Will there be days when the Genkan gets messy? Absolutely. But the goal isn't perfection. The goal is a return to center. I now have a system that supports me, instead of a chore list that drains me. If you have watched this far, I know it's because you are craving that same sense of peace. You are tired of the clutter, both in your house and in your head. So, here's my challenge to you. Don't try to do all 10 habits tomorrow. That is the American way, and it leads to burnout. Pick one. Just one. Maybe it's the shoes at the door. Maybe it's the 5-minute morning reset. Try for 7 days. And then come back here and tell me how it felt. If you want to join me on this journey of redesigning our lives after 50, please hit that subscribe button. In my next video, I'm going to tackle the one room we didn't talk about today, the kitchen pantry, and show you how to organize it for better health and weight loss. You won't want to miss that. Thank you for letting me into your home. Now, go create your sanctuary.